Thank you for making the time to joining us for this 5th industry webinar for the NVES Regulator. Today, you ask, we answer. So there's a few things about today that are slightly different from our previous webinars, but I'd just like to start with a bit of housekeeping and letting you know that we are recording this webinar. And we will be publishing this on YouTube not long after this session. You will actually also see, if you go onto YouTube and you do a search for NVES Regulator, that the previous webinars that we have run are also published there now. So please feel free to go and have a look for those previous recordings. As per our usual process, you are still please use Slido for any anonymous questions you'd like to have, or questions that might be a little bit longer or a bit more difficult to ask out loud. You're welcome to pop them into Slido and we will read those out and answer them as many as we can in the time we have. But today as well, having heard from many of you over the last couple of webinars, and given that today really is about you and making sure that you are ready with all the answers you need for next Tuesday when we start being compliant with the NVES, we're making sure that you've got the opportunity to ask your questions as well. So throughout the course of the presentations to begin this webinar, I'll ask if you keep your microphone muted, please. But if you would like to ask a question, not through Slido, but by speaking to us, if you pop your hand up, that's the virtual hand with the raise button in Teams, then we will call on you and you'll be able to ask a question and I'll refer it to one of the team for an answer across the time of the session. So with the Slido, each one of the slides does have the little slido.com and both our identification number and the passcode in the bottom of the screen. So if you are partway through decide you want to pop something to Slido, please jump in at any time. So can I please, I think, do we have a slide? The next slide is our acknowledgement of country. And if not, I will just say I'd like to acknowledge the Ngunnawal people, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm calling this meeting, pay my respects to their elders past and present, and really recognise their ongoing connection to the land and the care for the land that I'm on today and many of my team today, but also extend that respect to people of other lands that are joining us. So this is going to be quite short and sharp from the presenters today. We wanted to make sure that you've got as much time as possible to ask any questions that you'd like. And so, as I said just before, for anyone who's just joining us or made it into past the lobby, so we have two ways of asking questions today. The way that you're all used to, which is the Slido. Pop your hand up, and pop your hand up is the alternative. We will call on you when we get to the questions and answers. But what we'll do now is we'll actually move through to our presenters. We'll let them get through some of the information. Hopefully none of this is new to you. Today should be relatively boring. Today should be a day to really make sure that you understand what needs to happen and how ready we are to go live next Tuesday when the NVES compliance begins. So please don't keep any questions to yourself. This is your opportunity. And certainly we'll be having a number of more engagements as we move forward in time. So past 1 July, it'll be a very exciting, hopefully boring day for all of us, where things just go on as they go on. But as we get closer to some of the next pieces of the work that's going to be happening, the team will be running more webinars. We'll also be running some more face-to-faces. We, of course, still have our newsletter. We'll be doing some direct communication with some of our regulated entities. We have our account managers reaching out. So there's all sorts of ways that you can continue to engage with us, and we'll remind you of those at the end of the webinar as well. So with no further ado, we might jump to our first presenter. And I'd like to introduce Laurel Backer, who is joining us today as Gemma is unfortunately unable to meet us. Laurel has actually been part of our team for as long as I have, a little bit longer, and she's kindly stepped in because Gemma was unable to join us today. So Laurel, to you.
Thank you very much. Hello everybody, it's lovely to meet you all. If I could go to the next slide, please, that would be great. None of the information I'm going to be running through with you today is new. I'm just reiterating it all, so it's all fresh in our minds, ready to ask all the questions that are coming. So just to be clear for everybody, you all know the 1st of July is next Tuesday. We are abundantly aware of that. From the 1st of July, you must include NVES data in your RAV entries. Up until then, it is voluntary. You can choose to include that information should you wish, but you have no obligation. From the 1st, if you do not include your NVES data, your RAV entry will not be valid. So you must include it from that date. Obviously, we strongly recommend that you are doing that now, because that allows you just to be 100% sure that your systems are working the way that you intend and that there are no issues with your RAV submissions. The test environment that has been open to everybody will be closed from the 30th of June, and if you attempt to submit through that, you will get a bounce back telling you that it has been closed. So I just want to be clear on that. The other things that I wanted to reiterate in this slide are that the pre-1 July NVES data you may have chosen to supply to us will not be included in your 2025 IEV. It will be deleted from the RAV by the 3rd of July, and it will not be there. No one will be able to see it. It will not exist. It won't be saved anywhere. It is gone. So I just wanted to be really clear on that for you. And the only other things are, if you're wondering just where do I find some support and guidance to help me just in case I'm still doing readiness activities or I'm doing this for the first time, you can access the Guide to the Register of Approved Vehicles. That has been updated to include the NVES data. It has been updated to include the NVES validations, so you know what is being looked for. You can also watch the Robo Release 9.3 video that came out in May, but it takes you through the NVES fields and shows you exactly what you need to do. And for those that aren't big fans of watching a video but like to be able to just see a picture that tells you quick and easily, the What's New, What's Different guide for Robo 9.3 includes, from memory, 4 slides on the NVES fields. So you can also go to those if you. Can I jump to the next slide, please? Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, whoever's joined us. If I might ask you just to pop yourself on mute. We're just in the middle of the first presentation, and we'll come to questions a little bit later. Thanks. Sorry, Laurel.
All good. Now, this is, again, just a refresher. This is not anything that is being newly, freshly presented. So the NVES vehicle types are Type 1 and Type 2, new passenger or light commercial vehicles with a gross vehicle mass of less than 4.5 tonne. So those are up there on the screen for you. Please make sure that you're clear on how to select the correct vehicle type. You're looking at the gross vehicle mass, the rated towing capacity in your chassis type. They are all factors that you need to consider in making that determination. What I do want to quickly touch on here is what's not applicable. So if it's a concessional RAV entry, if it's a second stage manufacture, other vehicle classes, these are not regulated by the NVES. Please do not complete the NVES fields for those vehicles. They are not regulated under the NVES. They are absolutely regulated under the RVSA. The other thing I just wanted to touch on is that if your vehicle is over 4.5 tonne, it is exempt. So please, again, it's exempt. It is not regulated under the NVES. We do have 4 category types that are temporarily exempt. And these vehicles are currently exempt because they don't have an emissions number right now. That is something that is being looked at and will be communicated well in advance when that's due to change. So right now, they are also exempt. So you really are just focusing on your 4 vehicle types under Type 1 and your 1 vehicle type at the moment under Type 2. One last slide to go from me, if we can just progress to that one, please. Thank you. All right, this is just a bit of a do's and don'ts that have come out of our learnings through the test process and earlier work that we've been doing. So please don't enter a rated towing capacity unless it is an MC category vehicle. That's one of the validations. If you do enter your RTC and it's not an MC category vehicle, it's going to fail validation and you'll have to redo it. So please be aware of that one. Please don't enter your MIRO, mass in running order, got it. Please don't enter your MIRO, your CO2 or your rate of towing capacity if your vehicle type is exempt or non-applicable. Please leave your CO2 or MIRO blank if your vehicle type entered is type 1 or type 2. And finally, on the don'ts, should you realise you have made an error in your NVES entry, please use the existing RAV correction process. NVES fields are non-key data fields, and please follow the guidance on the department's web page for how to do a RAV correction. The process has not and is not changing for you to do an NVES correction at the moment. The do's. Please be aware of the latest RAV guide and the validation rules so that you know what you need to be careful of so that your entry doesn't fail. Critical, and this really is critical, you must use the April 2025 template from the 1st of July. That is the NVES inclusive template. Anyone who uses the old template will find their entry fails, be they regulated by the NVES or not. You must use the new template from the 1st of July. Final two things are, please do be using them now. Please don't wait till the 1st of July. We wouldn't want anyone to have a horrible shock. And finally, you can include motive power values should you wish. It is very much should you wish. That is optional until the 1st of July 2026. If you do want to include motive power, the people to ask questions about that are the Rover RVSA team using the normal channels. The main one would be the Rover email, roverinfo@infrastructure.gov.au, or the Rover 1800 number, which is 1800 075 001. So any questions on motive power do need to go to the Road Vehicle Standards crew rather than us. That is it from me. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Laurel. And just to add to what Laurel was saying about, and it's up on that screen there, about trying to use the current system right now. You don't have to wait till 1 July. Just over half of regulated entities have actually put through submitted a RAV entry with some NVES data in it to date. So about half of you have made sure your systems are really ready. The other half of you still have time. Laurel, I have got a hand up. Seeing as the hands come up in accordance with your sort of pieces and perhaps on this do and don't slide, I might go to that person, and then if need be we can actually pop back to the question later if it's something that's covered in Nicola's space. So Ray, if I could ask you to come off mute and please ask a question.
Okay, thank you. It relates to the do and the use of the template. And my question is that if you're using the Rover portal, the template's not there, but you have to fill in the data in the order of the form on the portal. So.
Oh, thanks for raising that, Ray. That wasn't our understanding, so I can see Laurel is taking a note right now. We will try and actually get confirmation while we're in the webinar, if possible, from our colleagues over in the RVSA space to see if we can solve that mystery, because it was our understanding that the new template is available. But let us come back to that. If we haven't answered it by the end of the webinar, I promise that we will circle back around to it and make sure that that template is the template that's available. I know right now there are 2 templates, which has caused some confusion for some people. From 1 July, there will be only the one template. Laurel, anything to add to that?
No, there's really 3. There's the XML, the CSV, and you can do it directly into Rover. And Rover already has the new fields for the emissions.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and the other one should be there as well. I'm not sure what the issue is there, Ray, so if you can leave it with me during the webinar, I'm going to reach out through to Rover and I'll find out for you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for that question and raising that, Ray. Appreciate it. Daisy, have you got a follow-on or a question still around the system pieces? To you, please.
Yes, thank you. This is Daisy. So basically, before 1st of July, we just submitted everything via a Ravel portal, right? So I just log in, and from the website page, just following the question the gentleman just mentioned. Currently, we have two choices. One is like new Ravel entry form. Another is like submit Ravel entry file. So can we see after 1st of July, there only one button left, which should be like entry new Ravel entry form. So this is the first question. And secondly, would that be still necessary for us to copy the email RAV submissions at fcai.com.au at the same time, or if we got completely uploading our Ravel portal, we don't really have to copy everything to the email addresses again. Thank you.
Thanks, Daisy. I think on the first question, I'm relatively confident, and Laurel can step in and correct me if she thinks I've got it wrong, but my understanding is yes, on the 1st of July, you will see only one button for the Rover portal, so it will become less confusing. In terms of the CCing to the FCAI, I'm not sure that I know that answer. I'm very sorry. I'm not sure that Laurel will know off the top of her head, because that's not a process, that's part of the NVES process. Laurel, do you have any insights, or might we have to refer again to our colleagues?
I'd need to refer back to our Rover colleagues. I think CCing FCAI is possibly a process that you are required to do, but not a process that the department is requiring of you. It may be a business process for you. I'll see what I can find out, though.
Yeah, fantastic. And I'm sure that we probably have one of our FCAI colleagues on the line. If they have any insights, please feel free to either pop your hand. Oh, Ashley, I was sure that you would have joined us, Ashley. Are you able to bring any insight to Daisy's question?
If Daisy can contact me after this webinar, I'm happy to talk to her about that one.
Fantastic. I hope that's helpful, Daisy.
That's not a department issue at all.
Oh, okay, sure. If possible, can you let me have your email addresses later? Yeah,
I'll put it in chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Look at that. NVES is connecting people all over the place. I love it. Thanks, Ashley, for stepping in. Appreciated.
Except chat's turned off for this meeting, so.
Ashley, if you just if you give me the okay,
I've just turned it on.
Pass on. Oh, great. Thank you, Genevieve. Thanks. Right. Okay. So Laurel already prompting a lot of questions and conversation, which is exactly what we wanted to do today. So thank you both to Ray and Daisy popping your hand up and asking your questions. We do have questions in Slido. I think I would like to just keep moving along though and let Nicola talk through the pieces that she's got to remind us all about. And then at the end of Nicola's presentation, we'll go back to the Slido, answer some of the questions there, and also I'm sure we'll have some more hands up. So thanks, Nicola.
No worries. Thank you, Karen. And Laurel, thank you very much for the introduction. Okay, so I know a lot of you here now, and particularly post the Sydney workshop, it was great to meet people face to face, and we'll endeavour to do that where we can. But in the meantime, we have these webinars, which can also be really useful. When we were deciding on the content of what we'd bring together for this webinar, everything being sort of mandatory and live on the 1st of July, there was a few questions about what we'd present, but we landed on just doing more of a recap of and keeping it to basics of what we need to do from July 1. Of course, noting that we'll be continuing to engage with everybody post July 1 on the next steps as well for NVES. Including ahead of the portal release later in the year. I'd just like to also note that the coming slides, sorry to disappoint anyone who's sort of been following us along on this webinar series. We are going to do a lot of recapping of things that you'd have already seen and you'd already be well aware of. But when we were looking at the people that were coming today, there was lots of sort of different names for us and some maybe new people to our engagement. So we didn't want to leave anybody behind. So that's my little intro to today, manage everyone's expectations. Anyway, if we can move on to the next slide, please. Oh, I should introduce myself. For those who haven't met me yet, I'm the director of the regulatory operations team. So my section is the small but mighty section that contains account managers who are on the line at the end of an email to support regulated entities under NVES. So yeah, moving right along. Okay, so this is a recap from my first webinar that I gave when I got to the regulator. What we really want to people to ask themselves, and this is for the people who are sort of newer to this concept of the NVES and have had less time maybe than some to get their head around what they need to do to be ready for the new vehicle efficiency standard. So we put together a bit of a checklist. And the principle of this checklist is if you tick all the boxes, we think that you're in really good stead and you should give yourself a pat on the back. If you tick half the boxes, then reach out to us and we can fill in some gaps for you. If you only tick a couple of these boxes, then you should definitely just give us a call or send us an email, and our account manager can reach out and help you, guide you on the things that you can be doing to make yourself better prepared for the standard once it gets started. So on this checklist, really, what we think is really important for your company to consider is role awareness. Do you have all the right business units aware and ready to support your NVES activities? Traditionally, the RVS has been sort of more of a homologator, sort of engineering type, sort of, might be generalizing, but quite a defined sort of role. The NVES the obligations under NVES may have broader implications for your organisation, and you might find that it's important to bring in product planning people and also finance people, as well as making your senior executive aware where there are financial kind of, I guess, implications down the track. The other key question is, do you have a central contact for NVES? So although it is good to make sure that you've got multiple people in your organisation who are across these obligations and can answer questions, it really makes it easier for everybody if you have one person who's sort of assigned to be our kind of key conduit. So we are trying to sort of reach out and establish who those key contacts are. You may already have one. If so, that's great. If you don't, have a think about it. It can change as well. You just need to let us know and we can update our records. So excellent. Moving along to data assurance. Sorry, not moving along slides, moving along the list. As Laurel sort of went through, there's some do's and don'ts for entering the new data that's required in RAB submissions. It's really important that you've given some thought onto how that data will be collected consistently and accurately. Also consider any additional record keeping and assurance processes that need to go with making sure that that data is defendable and robust if questioned. Also, are you confident that you could respond quickly and appropriately if contacted by us with a data assurance question? So this isn't meant to be a scary sort of point that we're making. We may reach out, particularly in the early years of NVES, when the data is coming in and we're trying to understand it. We may reach out with really simple questions for you because we can benefit from more context. It may not necessarily be a compliance issue, and we'd be very, I guess, grateful if we can have open channels of communication with your organisation if we do have questions for you on your data. Strategic planning. Obviously, this is where sort of it brings in the broader role of people in your organisation. Have you assessed and planned for not only the short-term changes, but the longer-term implications of NVES for your company? And are you satisfied that your business structure and current RAB arrangements suit the NVES? So because NVES regulated entities are the VTA holder, that is sort of complicated for some business structures and sort of frameworks that are in place that you're working within. Your companies are working with other companies that are maybe in your overall corporate structure or maybe outside of that corporate structure, in which case it sort of probably will benefit you if you do have any questions about who the VTA holder is and how you work with them and how you access your NVES data. Please get in contact with us early so we can help identify how that will work for you. When it comes, there are still a lot of questions around this when it comes to the time where we have our online platform for regulated entities to have accounts in and use. We will definitely, and it'll be the job of my team to help everybody work out the roles and permissions that people need to do the sort of tasks and look at view the data that they would like to view in that for the VTA holder. So thank you. Oh, next slide, sorry.
Can you see that slide, Nicola? We're watching, we can see NVES.
Oh no, it's frozen for me. Yeah. Hang on. It's not. I'll just try and refresh.
Okay. While Nicola's doing that, I might just jump to a couple of the questions and answers as we get the technical pieces back up and running. Look, the number one question on Slido right now is about moving compliance from RAVs to sale or point of sale. Is it confirmed? A compliance strategy may not necessarily involve a sale and will impact much of the work we've done in good faith to be compliant. So we did actually have this question at our face-to-face in Sydney, and so let me give you the same answer, and the answer is no, it's definitely not confirmed. The work that the department has had being done by some consultants is really about cataloguing the issues that come around with this kind of consideration. It was a consideration the Minister had been quite clear in passing the legislation would be thought about in the 2026 review, I beg your pardon, of the NVES. And so the department and my colleague Tristan, his branch, wanted to make sure that they had a full understanding about about what the issues are that need to be thought about in that place. So we can absolutely assure you no decisions have been made. What I can also say is that there will be a process to follow, and that process will probably be relatively lengthy in terms of taking the catalogued issues, the team deciding what other work needs to happen, getting some instructions, moving forward through consultation if there's further consideration of the matter. So you will not be left out in the dark. You'll have plenty of opportunity to engage, but the answer right now is definitely not something that is a right now problem. We can absolutely say with certainty NVES is as per the Act. The Act is not going to be changed in the next couple of days. So come July and come this first year, we'll be operating the way we all expect. I hope that I haven't said anything that my policy colleagues would disagree with, but I'm very confident about that one. Look, there was just another couple of questions that had come up pre-seminar, and just to perhaps acknowledge and say thank you to those who had jumped onto Slido early and popped their questions through. I thought I would better do them the courtesy of actually answering their questions straight off the bat, because it should be a gold star for those of you who have put the time in and given us the questions right up front. So just going back to some of the first questions that we had there's quite a number of them there, so I'm just needing to scroll to where I am. So I think that the first questions were, team, can you help me out? Because every time that I look at this, it keeps jumping around to a different place.
Yeah, definitely. So the first questions came from Kim Nguyen. In PHEV or hybrid vehicle, what is the correct declaration for motive power if it is mandated in RAV submission?
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Jen. So I think that Laurel actually answered this question in her presentation. In terms of the motive power field, it is voluntary until July 2026. So it's not mandatory right now. There is a lot of guidance available on the department's website, and I think through you can access those through the RAV portal, I think, as well, about how to actually make your declarations. But it's not mandatory. If you're not sure, I would suggest having a good read and look at that guidance material, and you've got plenty of time to include that data when you're ready to. So that's the next question. It looks like we haven't quite got Nicola back up and running with her IT haven't caught up yet. So
I'm back on, and I can see the
You're
current
back?
slide. Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's give it a go. Let's jump back to you, Nicola, and see if we can get your, which I know went
Perfect.
down really well
Sorry.
with the basics about legislation. Thanks, Nicola.
Oh, because everybody loves legislation. Okay, everybody, thank you. This is actually the product of a question that was asked in the last webinar that we did at the very end, and it was a bit of a lightning bolt moment for all of us. We realised that you sort of sit through all of these sort of webinars where we talk a lot about what's coming down the pipeline and what you have to, where your obligations come from, but not a lot of time spent in actually kind of like spelling it out and telling you what the difference is between all of the things that we're talking about. So we thought we'd just start by drawing up a quick list of standard, like sort of the legislation basics, which are good to know if you're involved in NVES. So of course there's the standard that we refer to all the time, and usually if it's us referring to the standard, the Act, it is the New Vehicle Efficiency Standard Act 2024 that came in last year. Also, as you'll know, NVES is kind of sort of embedded inside the Road Vehicle Standard Act 2018, and that is actually the mechanism by which you are reporting your data. And there is a few crossovers in the legislation between the two acts, so that's really important to consider as well. But I'm sure you're all more aware of this than NVES because it's been around for quite a long time, and everybody is submitting their RAV submissions through this process. There's also the Road Vehicle Standard Rules 2019, the Australian Design Rules, which are really the technical rules for vehicle specifications. Again, I think I'm preaching to the converted, as a lot of you here know, are deeply sort of embedded in this sort of information from day to day. There's also the RAV determination. So these are all sort of different, I guess, parts of our legislation that we may refer to from time to time. Coming soon, for NVES, actually something we've omitted here, which is very, very slight, in fact, it's only a very small sort of couple of pages, is the New Vehicle Efficiency Standard determination. So at the moment, that just includes things about the exempt vehicle status. But in the future, we're going to see some NVES rules come out, and the rules really just set out some more of they put a bit more meat on the bones of some of the sort of broader framework that's described in the NVES Act. So it will mostly set out operational aspects and more about how the regulator administers some of the items that are in the Act that refer to the rules. So at the moment, we think that it's just going to include broadly rules around the registry and units, rules around publication, and rules around who the regulator can share data with within the Australian government, so different departments and agencies and things like that. So it might not be something that really directly impacts you day to day. You actually have all the information you need here, particularly in the first two, the sort of the parent acts at the top of this list. So I'll leave that one there. If you do have any questions or you're confused about any of the things we're referring to in any discussions or emails, please don't hesitate to call it out and just to ask us. We can send you links to all of these as well if you've got a burning desire to really get reading. Also, we will have a website soon that there should be information on the department's website around all of these, but we'll have a website soon that has these on a central page so you can hopefully press on links to get to them and easily access all of them. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, back to administration, because that really is my team's bread and butter. We're the ones who apply all of the things that are in the legislation that I've just been going through and make it work in real life along with you. So we're sort of in partnership with you there, or the regulated entities. So as we have done in the last, I think it's been going for about 6 weeks now, we've started to reach out, my team, and assign account managers, so a separate member of my team to different VTA holders that we know are going to be regulated under the NVES Act with their covered vehicles. So if you, I think I've also said this before, if you know who your contact person is and it's going to be that person post 1 July when everything is mandatory, that's great. If you make changes, that's also great, but just let us know and we can sort of apply that to our records here, and we'll know we're talking to the right person and we won't be pestering other people or trying to track down the right area in your organisation to contact if we want to give you a heads up about something. So yeah, that's just good housekeeping. Think about like when there's changes in staff as well. A stitch in time saves 9. So if you just let us know if someone else is taking on a new role and you've got someone replacing them, it's great to just give us a bell and it'll make things simpler from both of our sides. Fantastic. Next slide, please. Okay, so another recap is NVES sort of basics. Key dates for the 2025 performance period. We first came up with this slide a couple of sessions ago when we just thought it would be really important. Everyone's hit with so much information when a scheme or a standard first gets started. We just wanted to break it down into the first year and some key dates that you need to just keep in mind so it's not hitting you all at once, because it is actually quite staggered. So of course on this you can see that July 1 is when we have to start entering mandatory NVES data. I'll just quickly note here that our analysis shows that about half of regulated entities have already started doing that in the sort of pre-mandatory period run-up, which is fantastic, and congratulations to all those entities that have been trying it out. So really good. That does mean that half of you or half of the VTA holders have not started doing that. So we'd really encourage you. You've got a few days to play around with it if you like. You might be completely cool, calm and collected and not worried about it at all, in which case also great. But just to let you know, if you are curious, this is your chance to check out the validation rules, play around with it. It has to be, of course, for valid RAV submissions. So this is going to be an official record on the RAV. It just won't contain the NVES data that you put in after we remove that pre-1st of July data. So yeah, anyway, so we've all heard about that enough. I'll move on. The next key date for everybody who's a regulated entity under the NVES is more of an administration operational one. It's not an obligation. It's just to let you know that around September, our online platform for doing applications, looking at your sort of yearly results, your IEV and your FEV, and also, of course, accessing units through a registry account if you choose to open one, will all be sort of going live in September. So that is a bit of a big bang release for us, and I'm sure a lot of you are waiting for it to see what you'll be able to sort of do in there. So it will be something that is accessed through Rover, and only regulated entities will have an account on the NVES portal. However, once that's open, of course, because we know business structures are quite complicated, depending on the roles and permissions you need assigned to people, you'll be able to do self-service, and we can definitely help people set themselves up in the first instance, so you know the right people are getting access to that information. So onwards from September, when you've had a chance to have a look at the NVES portal, there won't be much to see though in the NVES portal in September, because you won't have any results from your first. You'll be able to see, I guess, a copy of your NVES data that you're entering into RAV, but you won't be able to see, you won't have like a sort of until the end of this performance period, you won't have an IEV or an FEV until that date. And you won't have any, if you're going to be below 0 for your 2025 IEV, you won't have any units yet. That happens, we'll go into that I'm jumping across the year, but yeah, that won't happen this year. So there's really not going to be a lot to see in the NVES portal. It'll just give you a chance to get acclimatized, apply for a registry account if you want one, but there's no hurry either. I'm sure many people will be keen to, but there won't be much to do once you open that account because there won't be any units for a while. So at the end of this year, just to note that it's the end of the first, I guess, performance period for the NVES. It's a short year this year, as we know, so it's only 6 months. So the last RAB entries to be included in the 2025 performance year have to go in before the 31st of December. So for the 2025 period, during January, the regulator does a bit of reconciliation, and we look at the data and we work out, we do calculations, we do assurance and verification and some validations. And then in February 2026 is when we issue regulated entities IEVs, so interim emissions values and associated units for the year of 2025. So as everyone here would know, only those people who have a score below 0 for their IEV will be receiving units. Otherwise, that number, that figure that is above 0 represents what you will need to get down before February 2028, when your final emissions value is issued. So there's quite a gap in between knowing what your job is and what your obligation is to reduce your for 2025. You find that out in February 2026, and then you've got the rest of 2026 and February 2027 to acquire units if you're above 0 and extinguish those units to get to 0. If you don't choose to do that, and you don't have to do that, but if you don't choose to do that, what happens is your FEV will be above 0 in February 2028, and an infringement notice will be issued. At the moment, the infringement notices include a penalty that is half of the full penalty rate. So that's only if you choose not to extinguish units to meet your obligations. And that's not until February 2028. So it's a bit of time between now and then to work out what you want to do. Excellent. Can we go to the next slide, please? Great. So another slide we thought that was worthwhile bringing up again for people who didn't make it to previous meetings is to sort of explain as well what the difference is between how the Road Vehicle Safety Agency can help you and how we can help you. So as Laurel has pointed out before as well, the role of the Road Vehicle Safety Authority is still the same. And importantly for NVES, they still handle the RAV corrections that come through pre-IEV, and actually in any RAV correction that has to be made will indeed need to be made through their process. We are really established to help VTA holders with their obligations under our Act. Any NVES calculations and questions you've got about those values that you're issued, the NVES unit registry, including management of units, transactions, and also you can reach out to us if you are interested in trading but you're not sure who to get in contact with. We're thinking of coming up with a list that will be able to give people who opt in to share their details, whether or not they're interested in selling or buying units. It's quite a small group that are going to be, I guess, eligible to be on that list. So we think it's manageable at the moment through your account managers. General NVES inquiries, as well as contacting your account manager with any specific questions, guidance or help, or tips that you're looking for. So yeah, I think I'm at the end of the basics section.
That's great, Nicola, because we have a huge number of questions that have come through on Slido, a couple that have been in the chat for people who've had some trouble with Slido. I do want to give people the chance to get their hands up. So we might pause there and jump to some of those questions if that's okay. Thanks for all that information. So let's start with a couple of questions that I'd said that would give the hands up to the people who'd first put their hands up. First put a question through, and I think that these have been answered, so hopefully quite quick ones. So one of the questions that we had was about the RAV corrections process and to get entries corrected. And I think Laurel had already answered that in her presentation. It's the same process that you go through now. Nothing has changed. We do have a behind the scenes engagement so that that team will actually engage with Nicola's team if there's something that's NVES specific to make sure that we are understanding and helping to resolve. But in terms of your process steps, it's the same process as through right now the RAV corrections that you go through. The other question that I had, and it's come up in a couple of places, is will we actually publish, or where will we publish questions and answers, and in fact some of the webinar information from before. I'm happy to let you all know that we have published all of our webinars to date. We will publish this one also. It's on YouTube, so I think that we have put a response into Slido. You can just go onto YouTube and search for NVES Regulator and you'll see a number of videos come up, some of which are our webinars. So you can actually access the full YouTube list there, including all the questions and answers from webinar 4 and not too far from today, also from today's webinar, webinar 5. So let's jump to some of the meatier questions. So we've got a couple of questions that have come up now and a few thumbs up about whether or not there's an official calculator to determine obligations under NVES. Someone had commented that they're currently using one created by Lupit, and I think that just some of the other questions were just in relation to whether or not we're going to have a calculator available. Nicola, did you want to take that one?
Yes, that's a very good question. We would really like to. I've worked in previous regulators where tools such as calculators have been published on the website for the use of regulated entities and participants, just to give them a bit of, I guess, validation of what they're working out. Of course, those calculators are always sort of issued with a lot of caveats that it's up to you to make sure that you're meeting your obligations and making sure that you're, the information you're providing is correct. But we would like to be able to do that in the future. And there is an Excel, I guess, tool that we are working on in the background that we are hoping to get to a point where we can publish. Karen, would you like to talk about, would you like to add anything to that?
Oh, no, just to let people know that, you know, we are aware of how important that is to help people actually manage and think about what their future strategies are. So we're working to do that as quickly as we can. As per everything, it's maybe not as quickly as we originally thought, but we will keep working through that. So that is my reminder to say, stay, if you're not already part of our newsletter, keep in touch with our newsletter. As regulated entities, we will write, you know, our account managers will be writing more directly to their contacts, but if you're generally interested, the newsletter will be the place to go to get that kind of information. So I'm just going to jump to some more questions. So Narelle, I think that we had a question a bit earlier in the Slido. Are there guidelines for second stage manufacturers to enter data onto the RAV regarding NVES? Can I jump to you?
Absolutely, you may. Whomever asked that question, you'll be pleased to know you don't need to. Second stage manufactured vehicles are not regulated under the NVES. Please leave those fields blank. That's
Great,
it.
thank you.
Nice
That's
and
a
easy.
nice quick answer, thank you. I think there was also a question asked earlier about whether or not RAV validations will work on submitted motive power fields. I think that you had done some quick work in the background to get an answer to that one as well, Narelle?
I have. They will go through RAV validation processes as of 1 July. So if you are choosing to add that data in from 1 July, they will be validated as part of your RAV entry.
Fantastic. Thank you, Laurel. So just going back to Slido, I'm just really conscious we have 8 minutes and still a number of questions left. There was a question put, or a comment, I guess, on Slido about, and on slide 6, talking about the exemptions, a note that GVM is optional, says that the comment says incorrect, NB1 GVM is mandatory. So just to clarify, and we have popped this into Slido, but the reason that we say it's optional is because for NB1 vehicles, that's not covered by the NVES. So for us, if they're, sorry, but if you could perhaps clarify, I'm doing a horrible job here at being clear. So Laurel, did you want to say something more clearly than I have?
Absolutely, she says, scrolling madly. Crikey, Charlie. Okay, I'm failing miserably at being more. Essentially, that is a requirement under the RVS. It is not a requirement under the NVES, so it's not mandatory for our submission. So please, that is the case just there, and it is in the chat clarifying it as well.
Yeah, thanks, Laurel. And I think this has been some of the conversation previously about what do we mean by exempt versus temporarily exempt. So I'm sure we will keep talking and have some more information as our website comes up. I'm really excited to have our website going live shortly, because the team have done a fabulous job in making it really much easier to navigate. The content on there, we're really trying to be as plain English and clear as possible. So we will build it over time, but it will be able to step you through some of these concepts. So just heading back to Slido, I'm just going to check in before I jump to the next question. No one's got their hand up right now. Just a reminder, if anybody wants to pop their hand up and ask another question, you're more than welcome. So don't let us get to the end and have a question you haven't had a chance to ask. So I'll give it a second. No hands popped up, so I'm going to go to a Slido question, but the opportunity is still there. So there's a question here on Slido. Do you have any news on the conversion calculator for the WLTP EB utility factors? When will it be released? Which CO2 values should we enter when it will be released? And I think I was just, in looking at that, I just wondered whether or not the person who asked that question, whether there was any more context that you could give us to that question, because there's a couple of possibilities in how we answer. So whether the question relates to right now, the ADR 8102, which is the existing standard, or whether or not you're actually asking about the next version that's actually been worked on with the emissions reference group and the department and is working its way through processes, or are we talking about for the plug-in hybrids, or are we just talking generally? So I wonder if anybody might have a clarification to that. And if not, perhaps Lulu, if you're online, if I could ask you to give the best approximation of an answer to the question, if we could.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. Hi, everyone. Lulu O here. We take the question to mean, do you have any news on the conversion protocol to use for, I think, PHEV vehicles that are already currently tested to WLTP standards to get certification to meet current ADR 8102. I think that's currently being done under a minor and inconsequential notice. So if that is the question, then yes, we have published conversion procedure guidelines, and that is available on our website. We'll include a link to it in the chat box as well. If the question is about, well, what conversion procedure should be used for vehicles generally with the commencement of WLTP testing standards for new vehicles at the end of this year with ADR 7905 commencing, then the answer to that is we are currently working to develop a conversion procedure that will be included in an ADR as well. So that is off the back of work that's already been done to develop said procedure in consultation with our emissions industry working group.
Thanks for that, Lulu. Really useful. And so we will make sure we pop the link in as well. As you said, it's available on the website. Before I let Lulu sort of run free, although no, actually, I think this is not a Lulu question. I think I can answer this one. And in fact, when I look at Slido, I see it has been answered in Slido, but just to make sure everyone hears it. What if an MA or an MB vehicle that's over 3.5 tonnes has an ADR 8103 homologated, which means that it may have emissions data? Can it still receive NVES units? The short answer is right now, no. If a vehicle is exempt, you can't enter the NVES data, and our validations won't allow it. And you can't earn units for a vehicle that's currently exempt. However, as I understand it, if that ADR comes into play before 31 December, so in our first performance period, people could still go through then and actually make a correction. Have I got that right, team?
Yeah, just to add to that, Karen, so ADR 8103, that's not a existing ADR that's in force. So existing ADR is still ADR 8102. Our team are currently sort of working to I guess, sort of develop and then consult on a new ADR to sort of extend CO2 emissions testing to vehicles over 3.5 tonnes. So you'll see that we had undergone a public consultation on that earlier this year, which ended in February. And off the back of that, we have been considering the consultations received and working on what the potential sort of next steps and possible approaches are, again, I guess, in consultation with the emissions working group.
Thank you so much for that, Lulu. I know it's an area of a great deal of interest to a number of our regulated entities. And look, we're almost at the end of our questions, which is great because we're almost at the end of our time. The last question was actually popped into the chat and has had a response in the chat, but again, I'll just read it out to make sure that everyone's had a chance to see and hear that, which was a question about, can I get some clarity around infringements and penalties? Is the infringement a payable amount? So yes, is the short answer. So an infringement notice is issued by us as the regulator if at the point where you get to your final emissions value you haven't managed to get to zero and you still actually have not met your target, we will issue you an infringement notice. The legislation sets out the infringement notices at being $50 for every gram that you've missed your target. Nicola has popped this into the response in the chat as well. So there will be more information about this, but for everyone sort of paying attention at home, if we issue an infringement notice, it will be $50 per unit, and that is payable within 28 days. It is a payable item. I think it's a payable amount. It is raised as an invoice or an infringement, I should say, from the Commonwealth, and we have a whole lot of processes and information. We will obviously give you a whole lot of information long before we get to the point of issuing these. If we think back to Nicola's slide about some of the key times and dates, and I guess what you might call the cycle of NVES, we won't be in a position of issuing those until February 2028. And that February 2028 period will relate to, thank you, to your 2025 IEV figure. So there is some time. We will certainly give you a lot more information. It will come as no surprise to you as we're getting closer to the time what to expect from us. We are right on time. Thank you very much to everybody who made the time to attend today, and for all the questions both on Slido and for people who put their hands up and people who popped their chat in. Would be really, really interested whether or not this format worked for you. So please let us know whether or not you thought it was a good thing to be able to have the hands up, etc. There's a QR code on the screen right now. Would really appreciate your feedback. Thank you again. We're very excited that we're close to the 1st of July, but as I said earlier, if you follow and are doing all your readiness activities, if you're using the guidance, the tools, the information, and of course reaching out to us if you need to with any questions, we're very confident that we will all get there on Tuesday as a very boring day indeed. Thank you again for your time. Have a fabulous afternoon.